Movsar Evloev took to X after his controversial majority decision win over Lerone Murphy at UFC London, dropping a long rant that addressed the haters and doubled down on his undefeated run. He started by saying he felt zero pressure once the cage door closed, describing it like being a kid in the park. Then he turned to the critics. He reminded everyone that some of the fighters he's beaten talked trash about him before the fights, while others were respectful. Either way, he said love him or hate him, he's going to be champion, and they won't. He finished strong with I'm only focused on winners. Losers stay focused on winners, and you already lost. He capped it off by listing his record, 20-0 in MMA, 10-0 in the UFC, and rattled off his resume highlights, Lerone Murphy, Aljamain Sterling, Arnold Allen, Diego Lopez, proving he's beaten top competition across the board. The post has fans split. Some see it as the perfect champion mentality, others call it cocky after a fight. Many thought should have been scored a draw with the point deduction for the low blow. Arman Tsarukyan just sent a warning to Georgio Poullas after their RAF 6 wrestling match ended in a post-fight brawl, saying any further confrontation could be dangerous for Poullas because Arman is an MMA fighter who knows how to hurt people. In a recent interview, Tsarukyan didn't hold back. He called Poullas not a man of his word, accusing him of being tricky and rat-like, someone who could cancel a fight or threaten to sue if things got physical. He said if Georgio was a real man, he'd have a problem with him, but as it stands, he's not worried because Poullas isn't built for that kind of heat. Arman emphasized that he's in the UFC and trained to use his full MMA skill set, hands, elbows, kicks, and that going at it outside the cage with wrestlers is risky for them. And it's dangerous because MMA fighters know how to inflict real damage. This comes right after the RAF 6 chaos in Arizona, where Tsarukyan shoved Poullas down after the bell, mounted him, and threw punches and a knee, sparking a wild melee with both camps rushing in. Let's roll the clip of Arman explaining why a real brawl would be dangerous for Poullas.
If he was a man, I would have with him problem. But with like these guys, I'm never gonna have a problem because he's not man of his words, first of all. And second one, you can do something to him and he can cancel the fight, say, oh, I break my hand, I wanna go this, I wanna sue you, because he's kind of a tricky guy. So, and you gotta be careful like these guys. He's like a rat.
Okay, and when the match is over,
yeah,
do you and Georgio leave it there? Will you walk out of there and whatever's behind you is behind you?
We'll see what happens.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I never know, but you know, I'm in UFC, and for me, it's bad to fight somebody somewhere and somebody, especially with wrestlers. They don't know how to fight, so, and I can break his arms, I don't know, like a head, you know. It's dangerous because we know how to use our hands, elbows, kicks, you know. It could be dangerous for him.
Khabib Nurmagomedov just went off on Jake Paul in a recent interview with Russian outlet MMA Brotherhood after headlines broke about Donald Trump suggesting Paul fight the retired UFC legend. Trump told Jake during a recent sit-down interview that he wants to see him face Khabib in the octagon, calling Nurmagomedov great and one of the best. Jake laughed and said he's down, but Khabib wasn't having any of it. In the interview, Khabib briefly analyzed the fantasy MMA matchup and dismissed Jake completely as a fighter. He said he wouldn't last long in a real fight. Khabib pointed to Paul's lack of grappling and overall inexperience in MMA compared to his own undefeated career, calling it a mismatch that wouldn't even be competitive, saying he has no business in the octagon against someone of his level. The response has fans loving Khabib's no-nonsense shutdown, especially since he's stayed retired and undefeated since 2020. Let's roll the clip from MMA Brotherhood where Khabib fires back at Jake Paul, breaks down why the matchup is a no-go, and dismisses him as a serious fighter.
About him wanting to fight me in MMA. Look, I am already retired, but he wouldn't last more than a few minutes with me. You guys think he can give me a competitive fight? He is a bit late because I'm already finished with fighting, but I have seen some of his sparring footage and some clips. I've seen him training MMA, and he has a lot to learn. He knows how to throw a punch. His boxing is decent, you know, but everyone can box. Boxing isn't the same as wrestling. He won't be able to wrestle me. It would look completely pointless. But if he seriously wants to compete in MMA, we can match him with one of my young prospects at the gym, and I'm confident any of them would handle him easily.
Joe Rogan just went off on the upcoming UFC White House card, calling it a gimmick and questioning the whole idea. On a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan said the event feels more like a publicity stunt than a serious fight card. He pointed out the obvious security nightmare of staging fights on the White House South Lawn, high-profile location, limited capacity, massive Secret Service presence, and all the logistics that come with it. He also raised practical concerns about the outdoor setting in June in DC. What if it it rains and the canvas gets slick? Or what if it's brutally hot and humid? Rogan noted that June temperatures in Washington can climb into the 90s with high humidity, which could seriously affect fighter performance, stamina, and even safety during 5-round title fights or main events. The White House card is headlined by undefeated European star Ilia Topuria against American interim champion Justin Gaethje, a matchup where Ilia is a heavy favorite, and there is real concern among fans that their guy could get knocked out on that stage. Let's roll the clip from Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, why are you not looking forward to the White House fight?
Well, it's kind of a gimmick, you know.
Of course.
There's that. And, you know, people are criticizing the card, but if it was any other card, it's a great card. Mm-hmm. They're criticizing it because they said it was going to be the greatest card of all time. And it's just going to be a security nightmare.
That's true.
You're on the White House lawn. Also, they're fighting outside. What if it rains? What if it's hot? You're in the middle of June.
Right.
June in D.C. can get pretty warm.
Yep.
That affects fighters. Like, we only did one outside fight that I was a part of, and that was in Abu Dhabi, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
It was really hot, and there was bugs flying around. They're size of fucking birds.
Oof.
It was crazy. 100%.
Outside is hell for stand-up.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Here's my idea. We do White House fight, but we fight politicians. Huh? Get a Boebert versus AOC? Now that's a fight.
I like that.
But I think RFK would win everything.
I think Jasmine Crockett whoops them all.
Rogan also dropped a bombshell on his podcast saying he's heard Nate Diaz is getting paid more than $10 million to fight Mike Perry on the MVP Netflix card. He made it clear the number came from reliable sources and called it insane, especially when you compare it to what top UFC fighters make for big title fights or main events. He tied it directly to the ongoing fighter pay debate, emphasizing that a retired UFC star like Nate can pull in 8 figures for a single boxing match on a streaming platform, while active UFC champs and contenders often fight for far less guaranteed money, even on massive cards. It just shows how much the landscape has shifted. Netflix and other streamers are willing to pay huge purses for name value and entertainment, while the UFC's model, even with the new Paramount deal, keeps fighter pay lower relative to the promotion's revenue. Nate Diaz versus Mike Perry is set for the MVP event on Netflix later this year, and the reported $10 million purse for Diaz has already sparked massive discussion. Fans and fighters are using it as fresh ammo in the pay conversation. Why can 2 former UFC fighters make that much when current UFC stars grind through tougher camps for a fraction? That's it from MMA Psycho. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for daily MMA news.